Let's go to the phones. Joining us now, State Representative Kelly Packer, who's running for Lieutenant Governor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for joining us. Are you up, ready to go?
I'm up and ready to go. Got a lot to do today.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your campaign for Lieutenant Governor, ma'am. What makes you want to jump into the arena and travel the state, put a lot of miles on the odometer to do this job?
Well, one, I was raised by parents that believed that we have a responsibility to be citizens, not just residents, that we have a responsibility to be part of the dialogue and the solutions and to be working every day to make our little part of the world better. And so I got involved at the city council level initially, fell in love with that, enjoyed being able to bring some positive differences and change to our city here in McCammon, and then decided at a point down the road a little ways to get involved more in politics at that point and have been a legislator for the last 6 years. That being said, I've actually, as a legislator, been able to work with directors of our different agencies and departments and their staff members, and have met some wonderful people and have seen some great things, and would love to be part of that branch of our government. I think that there are things we can do maybe a little more efficiently and effectively, and I'd like to be part of that and help them navigate through what, one, they're really statutorily responsible for, make sure that we're not providing more than we should be, because that costs the taxpayers. And so that's the first thing we would look at. Are we just providing what we've been tasked to provide? And if so, are we doing it in the most efficient manner? And so I'd like to help with that. I've watched one agency in particular that's done that really well and has provided millions of dollars in savings that have gone back to their responsibilities, and I'd like to be able to do that same thing across the board. So that's probably the number one reason, other than as a legislator, I've also been very frustrated with the fact that we face the exact same major issues year after year with little to no solution, and it needs to stop. And I'd like to help frame our priorities. As President of the Senate, I'd like to work closely with our leadership as a partner to say, what can we do in the interim to have town hall meetings and meet with constituencies and the legislators themselves in their areas to come back each year with real solutions and fix those major issues, such as health care, our tax policy, our education needs, infrastructure, et cetera. We tend to wait till the last minute of the session to address those. We address them in a hurry, and we either don't get it right. Well, very rarely do we fix the whole problem, and quite often we're just putting a Band-Aid on it that either creates more problems or doesn't even come close to meeting the need. And we need to fix that. We need to change that. So that's another thing that I'd really like to work on, as well as, our economy and our education needs, focusing and making sure we're taking care of some things.
Sure, there's a lot, and I'm sure you hear this from your constituents. They seem to echo, or they don't seem to, they're echoing your frustrations, the gas tax, the repeal of the grocery tax, all these other issues, education funding. So I have to ask you this before we get to some more serious topics. Can you tell us the most unusual place that you've discovered on the trail? Because it's a long trail covering the state of Idaho.
Well, there were 3 small cities. So what I did is I went to all of the incorporated cities and the 5 reservations, and there were 3 that had 10 or less residents in them, which I found kind of funny. To me, it felt like maybe just a family really wanted a city where they lived. I don't know. It just seemed really bizarre. So Warm River, for example, down kind of in my neck of the woods, that and Drummond had 3 and 10 respectively. Clayton, as you drive between Stanley and Chalice, had 7. That was really quite funny for me, but still beautiful, and the people were still salt of the earth and neat. Warm River's more of like a camp area. And I think their little city became the camp host for that area, and it's gorgeous, great place to visit and enjoy fishing and big, great outdoors here in Idaho. But that, to me, was probably the funniest thing, is that we actually had 3 cities that had 10 or less residents in them.
Well, I bet now of the 10 or less residents, how did you do with turnout? And I'm sure they were happy to see it. Was it kind of like somebody who, has a job where they don't talk to people? Were they talking a lot?
Right. Yes, absolutely. They were like, yay. Well, except, like I said, Warm River wasn't, because it is more of a camp area, and so they get a lot of people that come up and camp in that area. And so they see people on a regular basis. Clayton, funny story there, as I visited with somebody that had recently been the mayor. The reason he'd become mayor, he'd only lived there for a short period of time on a road crew. The reason he became mayor was because his name was Clayton. And they thought that was really cool. And he was in the bar one afternoon with them, which is the one theme that all these little cities had, was the bar. And he was picked to be the next mayor because his name was Clayton, just like the cities. And so it was really entertaining. It was fun to meet the people, and they still had the same concerns that we all have, and that is that they can find success in future for themselves and their families, those that they love, and they love they love this great state.
Sure. Kelly Packard joining us, candidate for Lieutenant Governor here at KIDO Talk Radio. So you had your mobile RV traveling around, logoed up and looking at your website a year ago. You launched your campaign.
Yes.
You've been doing this for a year. Wow.
Right. Well, I knew that I already had a trust that had been given me. I had a responsibility as a legislator. So January through March was going to be committed in meeting that trust. I would not have time to campaign. I might have a few moments here and there in the evening and on the weekends, but for the most part, my focus needed to be on the responsibility I'd already been given. I think that's important, and that was my priority. So I said, what can I do in the meantime to establish a base and to start a foundation for this position that I really want to have and want to make a difference in? And that's when I decided to take that tour and get out and meet people and let them know how important this is to me, and also let them know how committed I am to the responsibilities I've already been given.
KIDO Talk Radio, Kelly Packard joining us here as we continue on. So let's talk about the great mystery, the great puzzle of education, and the role of the lieutenant governor. A little different than as a state rep or a senator or as the governor. What would you work to solve our challenging issue concerning education and the teacher drain that's going on everywhere?
Right. Well, one thing that I pride myself in is that in the last 5 to 6 years, we've worked hard in the legislature to change that focus and to bring more money to the table for teachers specifically, which I think is critical. Teachers provide such a valuable service to our kids, to our most precious resource in the state, and we need to recognize that and make sure that we are providing for them a living that they can survive, and not only survive but thrive in Idaho, and make sure that they have the resources to provide the things that we're asking of them. And we have had that focus. I want to make sure that continues. One of the things, though, that I'd really like to highlight and work with local communities and work with our state department and our board is finding ways to identify for the children and clearly communicate for the children what are our high demand jobs out there, and not just high demand, but high paying jobs. And how do our students find out, one, if it's something they'd enjoy, but two, find out the most efficient path forward to meeting that demand. I think that we need to be doing that in the 7th and 8th grade early on, so that they have a time to truly digest and understand what's available, what they enjoy, and then the most clear path forward. Because we have, especially with those dual credits and or CTE opportunities, kids that can graduate with, an associate's degree and or a certificate in a certain area, so that they can have a jump start and a very inexpensive jump start to that education. I think that's really needs to start happening. That needs to be a major focus.
We go to the phones. Barb in Sunny Slope for Kelly Packard, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Barb.
Hi there. Good morning. I hope all is well over there. And
good morning, Barb.
I had a question for you, Kelly. This year, since you were in the legislature, this is what prompted the question. There were bills that came up, and I'm thinking specifically the one I can come off the top of my head with is Christy Zito's Castle Doctrine, which never come to the floor. I mean, they get shoved in some drawer. What is your thought there? Is there something you can do about things like that?
Well, as a member of the I would have a fine line. I would have a foot in the executive branch and a foot in the legislative branch, but I would be president of the Senate. And so I would be in those leadership meetings as we talk about priorities. And I would work hard to work closely with the Senate leadership and the House leadership to encourage bills to be able to at least see the light of day and have that discussion. Now, I do know that, and I've said this many times, I've had my share of bills that haven't seen the light of day either, and I think that the process actually works. Some people think that it doesn't, but in my opinion, it really does. There's three key reasons why a bill either does or doesn't get heard. One, you have a really good bill, it's going to get heard. You have a really good message for that bill so that people understand it, it's going to get heard. If you have good relationships with your colleagues, it's going to get heard. And typically when a bill doesn't, it's either one of those three things that's lacking or a combination of the three. And for example, I had a piece of legislation that took me actually 5 of my 6 years to finally get through. The first time I brought it, I had to work hard, and I finally got it through the House and Senate with major changes and major work to get it through the committees and get it heard, to have it vetoed. But because of all of that work, I was able to find true problems with the bill and fix those problems so that by the time we actually got it through and it made it into law, it was a much better bill, and it was something that was much better for Idahoans. We as individuals, I think, bring great ideas or see a problem and a need, but we don't have all of the information we could possibly have. We don't have all of the picture, maybe how the courts would have to manage that, the law that we're going to put in place, or law enforcement, or maybe there's key pieces that will be critical for one stakeholder or another. I'm not saying that special interests have people's ear up here, because I disagree with that. But I do believe that our solutions can't just be coming from our framework or our experience or our knowledge base. We need the additional input. That's the reason you have 105 very different legislators up there to say, well, I like it, but what about? And we need to be willing to sit down and have those conversations and fix it so that it makes the most sense for the most people, and that it actually solves the problem, doesn't create additional. And so yes, I would love to see more things heard, but I think it's a combination of leadership, helping that process through, as much as it is, though, a legislator's responsibility to make sure I've got it right, I'm messaging it well, and I have the relationships with the people there so that I can have the conversations that are necessary.
All right, Barb, thank you for the call. Kelly Packer joining us. Kelly, we take a look at what's it like to be on the campaign trail, debating all your opponents. How's that going? We see all the other races kind of heating up. What's it like in comparison at the lieutenant governor level?
Well, I'm actually very grateful that those that have participated in our race, we have 6 for the Republican primary, and that's the first focus for me. And out of those 6, 5 have been actively campaigning and being involved in the Lincoln Days and the town hall meetings and things. And I'm very grateful that to this point, it hasn't really gotten ugly. There have been a few people that have said things that maybe I thought, that's not necessarily accurate, but I've just tried to focus on my race and run my game. That's all I can really do. I can't be responsible for the rest. And so far, I think that that's been the focus, is everyone's just saying, here's who I am, here's what I bring to the table, and I'd really love your support. And I've appreciated that. Now, whether that will change or not, I've heard some rumblings that there are some things that have been going out on social media and things about some of my opponents. But I just tried to stay out of that, and I plan to stay out of it. I don't agree with the mudslinging. I'd rather win a race and win a position based on who I am and what I can bring to the table, not on destroying somebody else.
Well, we appreciate you checking in. We'd love to have you back, and when you're in this part of the area, we would love to have you on again, ma'am.
Wonderful. I would love that. Please have me anytime. I enjoy visiting with you and being able to let people know who I am and what I stand for. Thank you.
And before you go, your website, if people would like more information.
You bet. It's kellypacker.us, KELLEYPACKER.us. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, and Representative Packer, thank you for running, and we appreciate you trying to be involved in the process and working for a solution. So good luck.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There we have it. Kelly Packer joining us. Much more on the campaign. Remember, Lieutenant Governor Little will be joining us coming up as well. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And don't forget, coming up, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little will join us, and KIDO Talk Radio, home of Win Kevin Miller's Money. All you have to do is listen at 6:05, 8:05, and 3:05 with Sean Hannity afternoons on KIDO Talk Radio, weekdays for your chance to win up to $5,000. Ho, ho, ho. Details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Let's go back to the phones. R&R joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Yes. Yo.
Go ahead, sir. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Okay, well, here's something I hope will be addressed. Bullet points of the pretty much the job application to be Lieutenant Governor. What are the duties of Lieutenant Governor? And I'm certain Brad Little could give us that information, but he's got a lot of agenda. And
well, we'll find out when we speak to him in about less than 10 minutes.
That'd be awesome. I want to advocate to keep our dogs away from the canals and keep our children safe.
Roger that.
In the crosswalks, and people just slow down, please. In a big hurry to get to the next stoplight, they're all in sync anyhow. So if you just do the miles per hour sign, that's a limit, not a suggestion. Peace out.
Peace out. It is time, 26 after the hour, time for traffic and weather. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Remember, coming up, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. We'll talk to him about the campaign. By the way, it's been a big week here. We've had Congressman Labrador on, Dr. Ahlquist, and now Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Keep it here for complete campaign coverage. And if you have a question for the Lieutenant Governor, 580-5436. 580-KIDO, as I've often said, it's always better to be, well, one of the first than on the last end of the stick, because then you don't get in. Also coming up, you're going to love this one. There's a school. Now, thankfully, it's not in Idaho, but there's a school across the country that has said that they're going to arm teachers. That's right, they're going to arm teachers. And they're not going to arm them with guns. They're not going to arm them with guns. Coming up next half hour, we'll tell you about, well, we'll tell you what they're arming the teachers with. No, it's not a judo chop. Anyway, more of your phone calls. We can get in Liberty Linda here before the news. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Didn't you ask for 9/11 stories?
Well, I was relaying a one from our man Ben, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, in regard to 9/11, if you remember correctly, the media only shows pictures of the Twin Towers from one direction. You know, the next day on the Geraldo Rivera show, he had a guest that took his own pictures on the back side, the other side that we never saw, of the Twin Towers when they were going down. And in those pictures, you'd see an explosion on each floor, and then that floor would collapse all the way to the bottom. I was absolutely amazed when I saw it, and I never saw it after that again. I wondered if any of your listeners may have seen that as well. Geraldo Rivera must have had thousands to millions of listeners that night. Maybe you saw it.
Well, I was there. I was there 3 weeks afterwards. So, I mean, I saw the enormity of the whole thing. I hung out there for about a week. I can tell you what I smelled, what I saw, who I talked to.
Well, maybe you can share that with us at another time. But, you know, I mean, it's still hard to talk about it even, you know, today. But anyway,
it is.
I
and you know,
thought that was an interesting point to make.
I'm with you. The tragedy of radio careers pre-social media is I had a ton of photos, had a ton of video, a ton of photos, and I'll have to go through my archives, or as Mrs. Miller calls it, junk, and I'll have to figure out if I have any of that stuff. But no, I was literally 20 feet from the wreckage of the Twin Towers. I can
Oh,
remember the smell. I can remember flying into LaGuardia and actually the plane tilting because everybody ran over to the left side to see the ground zero.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe you'll have a big meeting at Dave and Buster's and show us pictures and stuff.
Maybe well, you know something? You always have the ideas. You're always getting more work from me, aren't you?
We like to keep you out there working, Kevin.
Well, we appreciate you, Liberty Linda. You take care now.
Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little on why he should be Idaho's next governor with Kevin Miller, only on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Rolling right along, we're joined by Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin.
How goes the campaign?
Oh, it's going. Did anybody ever tell you Idaho was a big state?
I've never heard that one before.
In the last week, I've seen Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Canada, Washington, and Oregon.
Boy, the only thing missing is Russia.
But no, we're not adjacent to Russia. So,
what's at stake at this campaign, sir?
well, I think the future of Idaho. I mean, I think we're at a fork in the road with incredible trajectory. When I first got this job, we had 100,000 people out of work, and today, and it's a great problem, finding enough help is a critical problem at whether it's a small business or a large business. It's just uniform all over the state.
Brad Little joining us, Lieutenant Governor, running for governor here at KIDO Talk Radio. When we see the nature of the campaign, your thoughts on it, many people, I'm sure you've heard about this, the ads, positive and negative, your thoughts being at the center of the storm.
Well, like I said, Idaho's in great shape. It's not surprising to me that a lot of people would aspire to be governor. Some of these other states where their pensions upside down, their schools they're cutting revenue to schools. They're going to 4 day a week everywhere. They don't know where they're going to get. Their revenue keeps going down. We're very blessed here in Idaho, the position we're in, and we just got to keep it up. We've got to and do like we do this year. We gave a lot of money back in tax relief, and we're putting a substantial amount of money away in rainy day funds so that if something inevitably happens, and it will, whether the global or national economy, that we're best prepared for it.
When we take a look at one of the more contentious issues, obviously one you've been working on for quite some time with the legislature, with the governor, is figuring out the puzzle that is education.
Exactly. That's the number one thing. This shortage of qualified workers is the skills that they need, given this dynamic economy we have. And we've got, the fact that we added $100 million in new money into education this year with a 90% plurality of legislators means that there's a consensus all over the state of Idaho. Those 105 legislators represent every nook and cranny in the state. And that, those actions mean that, we have come up with a plan. It takes a while to get it implemented, because what you do at kindergarten, you don't see the results of it for, 10 or 15 years. And that's why it's so important that we have a good, solid plan. We have a consensus that parents and teachers and trustees are part of the plan, and we go forward with it.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. What do you say to folks, and I'm sure you've had your points to listen on the trail, that are frustrated with how things are? I get frustrated at a lot of things like traffic and such, but that have real life concerns about the future. Look, your family's been here forever. You'd like to keep them here forever, but the brain drain that's going on, whether it's wages or whether it's other opportunities, sir. And
everywhere I go, when I'm asked the simple question, I said that's the number one goal, is creating the best possible opportunity for our kids to stay here and for those that left to come back. We've got some of our kids that have left, but often they'll go to some of these other states, pick up a skill, and come back and start a business that's particularly in these small communities. That's where I just love to see it, is when somebody leaves because there's not enough jobs in the traditional industries there, goes off, picks up a skill, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's service, whether it's technology, comes back and starts a company. That, you can't believe how that warms the cockles of my heart to see some Idaho young man or woman come back and start a new business with the skills that they've learned elsewhere because they want to live here because of our family values.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little with us, Kevin Miller in the morning. Small town Idaho, traditional Idaho. Are we at a crossroads? You love Emmett. Everybody in Emmett loves you. Towns like Emmett, considering seeing a boom. We're seeing a boom in neighboring Star. At one time, the smallest city still is, I guess, in Ada County. We're seeing a radical transformation of communities that you can remember when they were farm fields. Heck, I've been here almost 9 years, and I can remember the farm fields that are gone that are now subdivisions. How do you balance traditional Idaho with this growth, sir?
Well, it is a challenge, and the existing industries, Treasure Valley is different, but the existing industries, agriculture, timber, mining, food processing, manufacturing, we've got to do all we can to help them, to add value to whatever they're doing. But at the same time, we need to have new opportunities, because every one of those industries I just talked about is getting more efficient. They buy a new piece of equipment, they implement new technology, and it does away with a job. And that's why education is such an important part of this, is when they do away with the job, the new job is going to require more skills, more technology savvy workers, and that's what we're just trying to do as fast as we can. Idaho leads the nation in the implementation of coding in these schools. Idaho leads the nation as far as what we're doing in dual credit. I get a little frustrated with the fact that people are saying Idaho's last. Spending is probably not in any way, shape, or form the best barometer, even though we've got to continue to invest in education. But the rubber meets the road in what do we do for a workforce. And of course, the rubber's meeting the road in Idaho in the fact that we got the fastest growing incomes of any state in the union.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Are you worried about this competitive primary, the most that we've had in many years, and you would know more whether it was more competitive in other years, sir, having impact on the party and its ability to win and to maintain the governor's seat in November, sir?
I don't know if worried is right. I mean, I know it's a very competitive primary, and that's not a bad thing. A democratic republic, requires that there to be a vetting of the candidates and the public participates, which is, I just want to remind everybody that we're not that far away. There's people voting absentee today, but it's really important that the people participate, and it's important that we candidates make the big wide circles around Idaho to know what all the issues are, because when you get to be governor, there are 10 to 20 decisions that come across your desk every day, and you need to have a barometer of what people are thinking from one end of the state to the other, because when the legislature shows up in town, if you don't know instinctively, you're going to have issues with trying to get your agenda implemented.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, a couple more questions before he's back on the trail. Governor Otter has worked with you, has endorsed you wholeheartedly, is passionately stuck behind you. Can you explain your working relationship with the governor and what his endorsement means for your campaign, sir?
Well, it means a lot to me. But he's been incredibly generous, whether it's trade missions, cabinet meetings, chairing the task force on cybersecurity and transportation, economic development. meetings with the legislature, cabinet meetings, filling in for him. Of course, right now, he and I are working a lot on this health care to try and get us out from under the negative incentives of Obamacare to bring us back to having the most affordable health care. He's just been very generous with me. We have disagreements that we talk about in the office and in the car when we're going somewhere. But he couldn't have been more generous as far as allowing me to be part of the team. Of course, having been lieutenant governor, he had a pretty good idea how to utilize a lieutenant governor.
And finally, a call or an appearance on the Kevin Miller Show wouldn't be complete without our good friend Pro-Life, who has a question for you, sir. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, Brad. Up in Moscow, there's a doctor. His name is Jeff Stiller. He's performing vaginoplasties. That's and turning men into women. And so we're having transgender surgeries in Idaho, and I just wondered what you think our government's position should be on transgender surgery.
Now, by the way, Pro-Life has asked this question of every candidate that's been on this program.
Yeah,
Is that right, Pro-Life? You're consistent with this question. In fact, we should probably just record it and save you the call, but we do appreciate that. So
yeah, go ahead and Mr. all of them.
Well, I'm not familiar with it. I assume, I hope rightfully that there's no government money going into it. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you, Pro-Life is.
Well, there might be government money going into it through this hospital because the hospital, is funded by government.
Well, Pro-Life, we appreciate the phone call. Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, good luck on the trail, and, we'd love to have you back on, and good luck in the race, sir.
I always show up when you ask me, Kevin, so thank you.
Okay, take care now. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little joining us here. Coming up, your thoughts, your views on the race with Kevin Miller, only on KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. ABC News is leaking this promo. See if we have it here.
Monday night on ABC.
Are there things that you know but haven't said?
And we hate it when that happens.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
This Sunday night on ABC.
Are there things that you know but haven't said that could damage President Trump?
James Comey.
And to those who say you should have brought Hillary Clinton before a grand jury?
The exclusive interview everyone will be talking about.
Was President Trump obstructing?
There we have it. We apologize for that. We'll work on getting that complete audio at KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller with you here. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. So James Comey making the rounds. Let's go to Cindy. Cindy, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. Listening to you for the last couple hours, you are just so polite. And you had a lot of Republicans talking about you last night at a new call center, and with the difference, not naming names, but just how you allow people, even if they may have a totally different view or say a lot of fluff and nothing, which I'm not picking on the politicians this morning, but I'm trying to write one concrete thing down anybody's saying. So I really want to thank you for that, because you don't cut people off, and I'm glad you let that gentleman who doesn't want to talk but, just bring up 9/11 again. For me, living in Connecticut 50 years and being very versed, I would never, ever, I would go on 9/11 in September to a fire station. I'm always thanking firemen for running towards that up the stairs instead of down the stairs at 9/11. And to me, I don't want to go see what a jihadist did at Fort Hood. I'm sure you have great pictures, but the sorrow in my heart over that is overwhelming. And I'm glad that you also let the woman speak about the Castle Doctrine. If you try to follow that bill, it gets buried. And the one thing the person that you had on the radio did not speak to, and I had people say that last night, because the one variable she left out is the governor. And you know what? He did not sign the other bill by a lawyer that is pretty weak, that may give you the right in a car to defend yourself. But the tragedy of that bill is also, if you don't want, and it was this is a quote from the man upstairs, that bill is going to go nowhere. Try to follow 1313 on your computer and see what happened to it. So there is a lot more in politicking that meets the eye. And the other thing with the gentleman, I'm glad he brought it up about 9/11, because that's another bill that went nowhere.
Sure.
You know, I'm glad McMaster's is out in Boltonism, because he understands, like our president and when Raul Labrador went campaigning, if we can't keep what's at stake for Idaho, if we can't keep borders and people from, harming us in America, that's tragic. Because the other bill, America Laws for American Courts, that is pretty simple. If you don't understand what happened at 9/11 and you are so naive to what our president came right out and Raul, radical Islamic terrorism. Just like you can go and study Buddhism, they tell you what their noble truths and paths are. You can understand the mind of the supremacy of jihad and Sharia. I met a man from England yesterday, and Loving, and he was talking about what has happened to England. You may not have a gun, but you got flashings here, there, and around the square.
Well, they've got a knife control there. Cindy, I got to run, but thank you.
Yeah, well, Kevin, thank you for having the politicians on. You're always so polite and helpful. So thanks, Kevin. Have a great day.
All right, Cindy. Walt, hang on. Let's get to traffic. Okay. Walt in Nampa, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Oh, good morning. I was under the impression SB 1313 passed into law even without, what's his name, signing it. So it is a law. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody can clear me up there. Anyway, what I called about was this petition on bear hunting. Now, I'm an NRA member, hunted when I was younger, don't hunt anymore because of physical conditions. But hunt a bear, what is this for a ego hunt or what the hell is, just leave the damn bear alone. Let him go do his thing. Okay?
Just listening, Walt.
Well, that's it. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you. Sometimes people say things and I'm just trying to figure out what they're saying. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Big day on Capitol Hill. You have Mark Zuckerberg pleading that Facebook is good. We'll talk a little bit about that with our friend Megan Barth. And don't forget, on Thursday, we are at Meridian Technical Charter School, brought to you by CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru, proudly promoting schools and securing our future here in the Treasure Valley. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. And what do you make of this Comey thing? We'll talk about that as well. A lot going on today. Remember, when you need to know, your trusted source for the real news, the real talk, the real information. Everybody says that, right? Anyway, you're home for Fox News on the radio, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.